In this video, I'm going to show you the lazy way that service-based business owners are beating all of their ad agencies and their lead generation agencies. I'm going to teach you 5 things. I'm going to make sure that you can generate leads faster, quicker, easier, better quality leads as well, and significantly less effort than you would actually consider. When I run the ads for my own agency, obviously it's a little bit biased because I've been doing this for years, but I spend about, on average, it was $4,500 a day, but unfortunately our ads are doing really well, so now I had to spend $2,500 a day on ads because we're hitting capacity. But I only really look at the ad account for about 30 to 45 minutes every fortnight, and spending thousands of dollars a day. Business owners are typically pretty surprised when I spend so little time on it. So I'm going to be teaching you 5 things which give me an advantage over all my other competitors, and which if you use them, you'll I know that you'll beat your own ad agencies, because we have so many results from members in our With You community that do exactly this and beat all of the ad agencies, especially all the dorky paid media buying dorks, right? We've coined this term, which I don't know what meme I borrowed it from, but in our With You community, we call it Chadvertising, which is simply just doing lazy efforts and still getting monumental results. So let's get into it firstly. Now, the first reason why Chadvertising works as a service-based business owner is because you know your customer better than anyone else. No one speaks to the customer more than you. No one is more financially incentivized than you for the marketing to do well. No one knows the frequently asked questions. No one else, typically as well, in the small to medium sized business, no one else is more involved in the sales process. No one knows the frequently asked questions. No one knows the objections as well as you. And simply whoever understands their customer the best will outperform anyone else. Because what will happen, right, is if you get an advertising agency, they'll do their best to try and understand the customer. But what you might do is, this is you, the business owner, and this is your ad agency. This little terrible drawing of your brain is everything that you know about your customer from the years and years, potentially decades of experience that you have, right? And it's just constantly filled with all of this information. Some of it you're not even aware of. Some of it you think is just a given because you've been doing it for so long. The things that are incredibly basic to you are PhD level to everyone else. Now, this is the ad agency's brain. It's already a little bit smaller just based off of mass. What you're trying to do on the onboarding process is tell the ad agency, hey, this is my ideal customer. These are things that they say. But we learned from a game called Chinese Whispers that there's a degree of communication decay. And you'll never, ever, ever be able to take all of this and put it into there. Usually what they'll get is they'll get this much. And then they have this much understanding about the customer as opposed to this much understanding about the customer. What they might try and do is get more information. So they'll ask more questions like, hey, what are some questions that you get asked on the phone? And again, you'll tell them, but this might take like a week delay if they're fasted of communication. And again, it decays, right? And so you just get like that much. Whereas the most efficient possible way is you just erase this entirely and you just use this and you use the 4 strategies and tactics which I'm going to teach next. Now, I've been a little bit of a hot streak in the With You community. When I help out service-based business owners, typically what happens is they might be getting lots of clicks, but then they go to the landing page and then they don't get any conversions. And I think 3 times in a row in the last week, Sophie, that I've just changed a couple of sentences, like 2 words in people's first line of their ad. So I think it was Dallas. So Dallas was on the posted in school and said, getting lots of clicks but no opt-ins. And so I went into the comments and I looked up his ads and ad library and I went, hey, just change this 1 word in the first line of your ad. And then he commented later saying, yep, that made like the world of the difference and his conversions just went through the roof. So the first thing is simply just focusing on the first sentence of your primary text of your Facebook ad. So when you have a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, I should be saying Meta ad, but I know for the YouTube algorithm, Facebook ad is going to rank higher. You'll have your ad, like that's a line, and then you'll have this half line, and then it'll say see more. And if you click see more, it will reveal the rest of the ad. However, if you look at the click-through rate, not link click-through rate, but just the click-through rate all, you might have a click-through rate of 5%, which means only 5% of people bother clicking see more to reveal the rest of the ad. And so the highest lever that you have to pull is simply this part of the ad, right? Now, what I mean by that is this part of the ad needs to drive enough commitment as well as curiosity so that when they click and go to your landing page, the landing page keeps the promise that the ad made. Let me give you an example so I can put this in real terms. Let's say you're an online fitness coach and you have an ad. It sends people to a landing page, and on that landing page you have your headline about like what you do and what results you get. There's a VSL, which stands for video sales letter, and then you have an application form down here. I'll just put app. If the first line of this ad is, this is how guys are losing stubborn belly fat, and then all the people that just read that, they don't read about the coaching down here, they just read, this is how guys are losing stubborn belly fat, and then they go to this landing page, and then they see this application form, a lot of them will not be expecting that application form, because if you just read the sentence, this is how guys are losing weight, if you just read that sentence and nothing else, what are all the things that could be? It could be Ozempic. So if this is a pie chart, there's a large segment of people that just read that, go here and go, that's not Ozempic, and then leave. There's another segment that think it's just some juice cleanse. And so they go, oh, is it a juice cleanse? And then they click and go, oh, I have to do with someone else. And they go, that, and then they leave. There's another segment that probably thinks it's a gym membership. And then they click and they go, that's not a gym membership. And then they leave. And then there's like a bunch of other people that think it's like all this other random right? And there's probably just this segment here where like 5% of people are clicking it expecting coaching, and then going here, seeing a coaching application form and going, oh, that is exactly what I expected, right? Because the landing page keeps the promise and needs to fulfill the expectation that the ad sets. And so what we're trying to do here in this first sentence is set expectations so that when they go to the landing page, they go, ah, yes, this met my expectations. I expected this, right? So how can we change this one sentence so that people get to a landing page about, and they're expecting online fitness coaching, and they're expecting to apply to work with them, right? This has worked time and time again for our With You members. All we do is we take, this is how guys are losing weight, and you just change it to, this is how the guys I coach are losing weight. Literally just that one word didn't change any of this down here. Find me one more strategy or tactic that is lazier and more effective than just putting the word coaching into your first sentence and improving the conversion rate of your landing page. Didn't think so. Now, second principle is the first 3 seconds of your video. Now, this is essentially the view retention equivalent of all people read the rest of the ad. They just, because everyone has TikTok brain now, everyone just looks at this. Fun fact, everyone's often surprised in the With You workshops where I ask everyone, I go, what do you guys reckon the average view duration is on social media now? And everyone reckons usually around 3 to 5 seconds. It's 1.8 seconds, which is about the same amount of time it takes to scan read this. But then also the first 3 seconds of the ads, that's generous because it's like an extra 1.2 seconds. That means if this is your video, this is the percentage of people watching. This is the start at 0 seconds. And let's say this is 30 seconds. Your ad is just 30 seconds long. That means that's 10 seconds. That means your view duration, if this is 50% here, that means your view duration curve looks like that. 50% of people don't even bother watching past there, right? So we need to do the same things in this first, like, we'll call it 3 seconds here. We need to apply the same principles that we did up here. So for example, you'll always notice in our ads for With You when I film them, the first thing I need to do is filter out any businesses which aren't service-based that need to generate leads and conversations to close deals, right? So we can't work with e-commerce clients. So if I just say, this is how business owners are growing their business, that speaks to every industry on earth, right? It speaks to e-commerce people. E-commerce, I spelled e-commerce wrong. That was a big e-com move on my end. There's a bunch of people that will listen to that first 3 seconds and go, oh, e-commerce, and then click, right? There's a bunch of people that are in hospo that think it will be for them. There's a bunch of people with like apps and like SaaS. There's a bunch of people in like other industries, right? But I just want the service-based business owners that need to generate leads. So in those first 3 seconds, I'm gonna be saying something that either explicitly states or implies it's for service-based business owners. I might explicitly say, this is how service-based business owners are doing blah, 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 blah. Or I might talk about a problem specific to service-based businesses. So I could talk about empty pipelines, lead quality, right? E-com dorks don't need to worry about lead quality. They just need purchases and ROAS. Lead quality is specifically a service-based business owner problem. Third thing I want to talk about in the lazy way that service-based business owners are generating leads is just what's above the fold of the landing page. So when you open up a landing page, depending on what device you're on, there's a section of the landing page right at the top, which is immediately visible. It's typically the headline, the subheadline, and the VSL, or the video sales letter, right? And then maybe the application form is just below the fold, or maybe it's like on the side or something like that, right? The further you scroll down the page, the less people get there. So 100% of people see what is above the fold when they click it. Very similar to 100% of people see more, right? Nearly at least 50% of people watch the first 1.8 seconds, right? So the highest levels are where are most of the people. So putting all the important stuff above the fold is most impactful. So for example, if your if your form your applications all the way at the bottom of the page and only 5% of people get to the bottom of the page, well, you've just reduced your conversions by 20%, right? So all the work is done above the fold. So the same thing, the headline. All the principles here need to apply to your headline. Now, one of the problems I always see with especially beginner business owners that are like writing their headlines for their landing pages is it's not clear what they do. And so we teach, I'll talk about it briefly now because this wasn't the script, but we teach a formula for headlines, which is the feeling plus the result. You take that and you put it there, right? Now, what happens if you have just the feeling and not the result? I'll give you an example. We had someone on an advisory call and I was reading the headline to his landing page. I think it was something like, this is how to stress less and sleep well at night. And I was like, wait, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a tax accountant. I reduce people's taxes. And I went, oh, okay, cool. That was just all feeling, but I didn't know what the landing page was about. And so I had to tell him, like, you need to attach the result there. Because if we go all result, if he was to write something like, this is how to minimize your taxes, well, it doesn't engage the emotional part of the brain. And there's a saying that people buy it emotionally and they justify it logically. I add a third component to that, which is people buy emotionally, they justify logically, but their logic is a little bit skewed if their emotions get to them first. So we always need to tap into both the emotional part of the brain and the logical part of the brain, right? So in that headline, you need to attach both a feeling and a result. But one of the very important things is that people get wrong is the result. The result might be the first order consequence, so the very first thing that happens as a result, but a more compelling result might be the second, third, or even potentially the fourth order consequence, right? So let's say, for example, let's say it's men's online fitness. The result would be lose weight, but what happens next? Well, it might actually be they see their abs in the mirror for the first time. So if you can attach this result to a real world context and experience, it becomes more compelling. So rather than achieve your dream physique, which is pretty like airy fairy, you can make it more compelling by attaching it to a real life scenario they might actually experience, like seeing your abs in the mirror for the first time, taking your shirt off at the beach with confidence, right? And it can make this result more specific and more compelling. Another example is content creation agencies. We get a lot of content creation agencies like videographers and things like that through the With You program. And what they'll do is like, they'll talk about like building brand. Okay, well, building brand is too airy fairy. But what happens if they build brand? They go, well, they get more customers. I go, okay, what happens if you get more customers? It's like, well, revenue grows up, right? And so talking about revenue growing up as a consequence of building brand is more compelling than just talking about building brand. So sometimes you've got to play with this result variable and see which result is the most compelling. You can do them through split test and high level. Now, on this landing page, there's going to be a video sales letter, VSL, which I've been saying. It might be like 5 to, I think mine's 19 minutes long, right? And all it's trying to tell people to do is, this is what we do, this is how we do it, here's the testimonials, and trying to get them to complete this application form. Same principles which apply to this ad here, which is view retention, apply over here. And so what happens is, if this is 0 seconds and this is, let's just say 20 minutes, this part here is going to be like 30 seconds, typically, depends on your audience. It's worth testing and looking at analytics, right? And so just like with the ad, you had like 3 seconds to get your point across. You're on the landing page, so they're off platform now, but you got like 30 seconds here, right? And so the 30 seconds does a lot of heavy lifting. They're going to usually, more often than not, they're going to decide whether or not they do this based on those first 30 seconds, right? And so you've got to put all your most compelling stuff in those first 30 seconds. Because the other thing you have to consider as well is no one's like getting convinced at the 30-second mark and going, I'm going to complete this application form, but let's see what the next 19 minutes and 30 seconds has to say. They're just going to watch 30 seconds, try and conserve calories for their brain processing stuff and go, yeah, okay, cool. And then complete this. There's some strategies and tactics you can use to get them to watch it after they book the call, to get them to watch before the call and actually rock out to actually support your sales process. But a lot of the heavy lifting on your landing page in your VSL is those first 30 seconds. They need to know a bunch of things, what you do, how you do it, and that it will work for other people and it will work for them as well. So those are the 5 ways that service-based business owners are beating all of their dorky lead gen paid media buying dork agencies, because they know their customer better than anyone else, and they're just making lazy efforts which have considerably more impact than anything that their ad agency can do. If you want to apply for the With You program, sit down with us for 2 days, build all of this out with you, and then get our support for 6 months afterwards via, I don't know how many advisory calls we do a week now, because we're adding even more. School, the AI version of me, so you can get fast feedback even on the weekends, because AI Brandon doesn't sleep, then click below.